how is it that ARM bucked the trend?
Well, Q1 was good for us. We were very fortunate. We had record revenue for us in Q1. We had record royalties for us, over $400 million in royalties. We had never done anything close to that before. So it was quite good. I think for us, Emily, largely it's been the result of the diversification of our business. As you mentioned, ARM was largely known for smartphones a number of years ago, but now we're in the cloud, we're in networking equipment, we're in industrial, we're in IoT, automotive. All those markets have been strong, so the result is a really good quarter for us.
Are you seeing any signs of a slowdown?
We're seeing some, but largely speaking, areas like automotive, areas like the cloud, areas like networking, still really, really strong. We've seen some slowdown in smartphones, some in PCs. We personally have not been impacted by it that much because we're seeing more and more ARM compute in each of these devices. So as a result, our results have been really, really strong.
So what does this show investors about the company as you're getting ready to go public?
Not much I can say about that process, but the results I think speak for itself in terms of how well we're doing.
So there have been a number of announcements about ARM getting into the data center. AWS is obviously leading the way. What kind of progress are you making there, and what kind of market share do you think ARM could potentially get to?
We're growing. I wouldn't want to speculate to how large our market share can get, but some of the fundamentals that we bring are really important, and that's really around efficiency. When you build a new data center, you only have so much power you can put in the data center, and you have only so much square footage. So compute performance matters, but compute efficiency really matters. It's an area that's really ARM's DNA. It's an area that we're really, really good at, and we're seeing that really in terms of the benefits of what AWS is doing and other partners. We've had announcements from Microsoft, Google. All the major hyperscalers now have made announcements on ARM.
You've also, I know, been working hard to grow PC market share. Obviously, Apple has helped there. What about Windows? When are we going to see a big Windows breakthrough?
I think you're seeing more and more of it. The laptops today that are based on ARM are terrific in terms of battery life. They're terrific in terms of performance. They don't need fans. I think you'll see the Windows ecosystem moving to ARM in a big way pretty soon.
So chip stocks, the market has not been kind to them this year. What's your sort of outlook? What will, in your view, differentiate ARM from the pack?
Yeah, I can't predict what the stock market's going to do. Obviously, if I was, I'd probably be on one of your earlier shows with a different job. We have two pieces to our business. We have a royalty business, which is an indicator of units that ship, but we also have a licensing business, which is really about design wins, the canary in the coal mine relative to new design starts. That's really strong, and in fact, it's as strong as it's ever been. We're seeing a lot of investment in R&D in automotive, in the cloud, in IoT, in laptops and smartphones. So I think going forward, the secular trends that have driven a lot of growth, we're very, very bullish on that. And we're seeing, again, our licensing activity, which is an indicator really of investment in R&D, has never been better.
Now, I know you can't talk specifically about the IPO, but what has the volatility meant for your strategy and your plans? I mean, you have to be watching the market dynamics and wondering if now is really the right time. I mean, many people are saying the IPO window is closed right now.
Yeah, I can't speak about the IPO process, but what I can tell you is that there's been a lot of semiconductor downturns in history. Obviously, we all know that. What's different about this one is we're not seeing people tap the brakes relative to new investment, and we're not seeing people tap the brakes on R&D. For us, the licenses that we do today, they end up in products 3 or 4 years down the road. The royalties that we're seeing today as a result of design wins that we did 3 or 4 years ago, we see continued strong demand for our technology and products.
Let's talk about China. Continuing tensions in U.S.-China relations, more restrictions from the U.S. side about doing business in China. We've seen, with the ARM example, just how difficult it is to run a joint venture there. How are you navigating that? Given the unique, ARM's in a very unique geographic and sort of geopolitical position, how do you navigate that without upsetting Washington and Beijing?
We're in a unique space. So when the U.S., for example, puts down restrictions around entities or companies that can't be shipped to that require licenses, like any other company, we have to apply for a license. We'll adhere to the compliance rules. We're a little different than traditional U.S. companies because ultimately those rules come down to the nature of the U.S. content, i.e. the percentage of U.S. engineers working on the products. The majority of ARM's engineers are not in the United States. The majority of them are in Europe, mostly in the UK. So we are generally not as impacted as other companies around these areas, but of course when we need to comply, we will, and when we have to apply for a license, we'll do what other companies do.
What's your view on the supply chain right now and how the COVID restrictions in China will continue to impact supply?
I think it's a very hard thing to predict, to be honest with you, because the shutdowns are sudden. They don't come with much warning. It doesn't take a whole lot for a section of the country to shut down, and the next thing you know, you can't get a port open, you can't ship product. So I think the supply chain perturbations are with us for a while. The world was very accustomed to the old normal. The world was flat, we had no pandemic, there were no skirmishes or conflicts across borders. We live in a different time now, unfortunately, and I think you're seeing that manifest itself in terms of all kinds of shortages. I think it'll exist for a while, personally.
So what have you changed about the way you do business, the way you run the business to navigate that, to get around that, or can you?
Hard for us. We don't build products, as you know. We license IP, so we ship blueprints to companies who build chips.
But what about your customers?
We watch that very closely, right? We want to make sure that we can supply the products they need at the time they need to have them to ship. But ultimately, we're kind of beholden to what the supply chain looks like. Again, what we continue to see, though, is people doing more and more designs, doing more and more design starts, not slowing them down. We're not seeing anyone say, look, I'll push a product out by 6 months because I'm sitting on inventory. Our partners don't think that way. It's really about innovating as fast as possible because the demand cycle is so strong.
Well, there is concern, though, that that demand cycle doesn't keep up. But, demand aside, is supply... Are we still going to continue to see supply issues? And how long do those supply issues last?
I think we will see it for a while until the world gets to a new normal of understanding what the buying patterns are, what the forecasting patterns are. Let's take system on chip, for example. You may be able to get enough die from TSMC, but if you can't get the substrate that you're going to put the system on package, you're going to have a problem. So I personally think it's with us for a while.
So where is ARM, let's say, a year from now?
Hopefully I'm with you talking about record revenues, record royalties, record design wins. I'm hoping that the momentum continues. I'm confident that it will.